All right, so let's talk about a strategy on how you can get more prospects to agree to a face-to-face meeting, because in the world of real estate sales, for the most part, in order for you to get a listing contract signed, we're going to have to meet with the prospect face-to-face or over some type of video call. Now, the framework in which most people are taught to sell when it comes to asking questions is to ask we call yes-oriented questions. This is what you and I are very familiar with. It's what we're very comfortable with. And the problem with that is that most prospects are saying no. So let me give you an example of what you probably say and what I hear most agents say when they're on a sales prospecting conversation. They'll get into a conversation with the prospect and they will ask them questions hoping that the prospect says yes as a form of agreement. And so they form questions that sound something like this. Mr. Prospect, would you be open to getting together and looking at my plan? Mr. Prospect, Mrs. Prospect, are you still interested in selling the property? Mr. Prospect, Mrs. Prospect, are you considering selling the home? These are all questions that untrained salespeople ask, and they hope that the prospect says yes, but as you know, most of the time when you ask those types of questions, people are saying, nope, not interested, and the conversation's over, call ends abruptly. Now, to be clear, there is a time and place for you to ask those types of questions. I'm not saying throw those out completely, but what works even better is something that my coach taught me and something that Chris Voss talks about in his book, Never Split the Difference. We have the same coach, by the way. And so we worked on this a lot, and that is to ask what we call no-oriented questions. Not all the time, but strategically asking these questions as a pattern interrupt. Because most of the time, people that deal with salespeople are hearing the same types of questions that I just outlined before. Can I help you find something? No, I'm not interested. Are you looking to sell your house? No, I am not interested. All those types of questions, it's so easy for the prospects to just turn around and reject you. So let's talk about structuring no-oriented questions that are designed to get prospects to say no, that they aren't used to responding to, which by them saying no is a form of agreement. And so how we want to structure these types of questions that will lead you to having better conversations with prospects over the phone, better conversations when you're face-to-face. They will lead to more appointments. They will lead to more conversions. I promise you this. How we want to structure the questions is by creating a world that you are looking for the prospect to say no. And so anytime you start off a question like this, you're going to frame it in a way where you come out and say things like, Mr. Prospect, are you totally against? Mr. Prospect, are you opposed? Mr. Prospect, are you totally close-minded to the idea of? Because the way we want to formulate this is we want to put the prospect in a position where they have to think for a second about the answer. And when we deliver the question this way, it's very difficult for people to be totally shut off to ideas that you present in this light. So let me give you a couple of examples. So if you're talking with a prospect, and let's just say you are calling a for sale by owner as an example, and you're prospecting for sale by owner. Instead of asking a question to a for sale by owner that sounds like this, Mr. For sale by owner, would you be willing to meet with me if I was able to show you how I can get the property sold and get you more money than you can on your own? That's a very common question, a very common script that's being taught that a lot of people use on the phone. Sometimes people say yes, but most of the time people say what? They say, nope, I'm not interested. So what if we asked that question differently? What if we said to the for sale by owner, Mr. For sale by owner, listen, I respect the fact that you're selling the property on your own. I guess before I let you go, let me ask you this. If you're unable to sell the property on your own over the next 30 days, would you be totally against looking at some other options? And that would be an example of what we would call a no-oriented question, because the way that we pose it is by positioning the question to be exactly what the seller would want. If the seller, and we use the if-then framework that we teach all the time. So we say to the prospect, if you're unable, this is hypothetical, if you're unable to sell the property in the next 30 days, then at that point, would you be totally against? Would you be totally opposed? Would you be totally closed-minded to maybe the idea of looking at some other options? And the totally is suggesting a binary mindset around what we just asked them. And so even if they're against it this second, they're not totally against it, most likely, altogether in the future. And so what you're going to find is that a lot of prospects will respond like this. They'll say, well, no, I mean, we're not against that. We just want to try to sell this on our own for some time. That's exactly what we're looking for the prospect to respond with, because that buys you the time to start uncovering motivation. It starts to allow you to make an impression in a conversation that doesn't end abruptly. And you can ask more questions that are no-oriented that will lead you to having better conversations and more appointments. After you get the for sale by owner to open up, as an example, you can follow that up with saying things like this. Well, Mr. Prospect, listen, I don't know if now's the right time or not, but if I could show you how we could produce an offer for you in the next 11 days to get you what you need out of the property, is that something you'd be totally against looking at? And we're piquing the prospect's curiosity, which is one of the greatest sales methodologies or sales techniques that we can use to have prospects take us up on what it is that we're asking, which is for the appointment. So try this the next time you're in a conversation. Try this the next prospecting call. Try this at the next appointment and see if it works better for you versus always asking questions where you hope and pray that the prospect says yes, but you keep getting rejected. This will help you to get past that initial resistance. And of course, if you want help with this, if you want to work on your sales skills, you want to become a great salesperson where you don't come across pushy and desperate and needy, but you come across in a way that has prospect be so attracted to want to work with you, then I'll put a link underneath this video for us to jump on a Zoom. We can have a conversation about potentially working together as in a coaching relationship. And then you can decide if maybe now's the time to invest in yourself and have a coach like myself work with you on your skills and help you start building a listing-based business or not. So if not, I hope that you got a lot of great takeaways. You've taken a lot of notes from today's video. And of course, we'll see you guys in another video very soon. I appreciate your time and your attention.